back to the reconciliation and what this administration's trying to do. This administration, the Treasury Department of this administration, Janet Yellen, has promulgated a proposal, put forth a rule proposal that will require banks, every credit union, every bank in America, to report every transaction with specifics, who, when, and how much for every transaction that exceeds $600. And overall, every account, business and personal, would have to report to the IRS the total deposits and the total withdrawals. This is a nanny state. This is a communistic tactic. We in the United States of America have a voluntary tax system backed up by criminal penalties if you don't comply. We do not have in America, prove to me that you're innocent by having third parties report your transactions to the US government. That is not a democracy. That is not a republic. That is not a free people. That is a people enslaved by their own government, because now they get to know how much we make. They get to know how much we're depositing. They get to know how much we're spending. Credit unions that are small, that have never taken a public stand, have sent social media messages and letters to all of their members to say, we don't get involved, but this is where the line gets drawn. We are not auditors. We are not state actors. We are not, going to be entrenched by the federal government. And that's probably the legal argument as I'm thinking through this as a lawyer, because this has happened before where the Supreme Court has decided if the federal government passes a rule, for example, no firearms, the case I'm trying to remember, Supreme Court case, I believe it was no firearms within so many miles of a school's, a school zone around a school. And they were wanting to enforce that through local police, and the state sued and the federal government and won, because the federal government has no authority to enjoin local actors to enforce their mandates or their laws, which is why we have to have like federal border security or ICE, because the state of Texas, the state of Arizona, the state of New Mexico, the state of California, they're not supposed to be enforcing federal immigration laws, which is why every time a president changes, the border changes so much, because how that president wants to enforce the existing laws changes dramatically depending on who's in. So this is the enjoyment of private institutions to spy on Americans. And this is not the first time this has happened. The NSA under the Patriot Act has national security letters, NSLs, that they send to your bank, to your cell phone company, and the bank and the cell phone company then have to send your bank records and your phone records, and they're not allowed to disclose to you that the federal government has requested your records. And so this has already started slightly under the Patriot Act, but now you have to just get an NSL letter to go and to happen. This would be just a blanket. Everyone is under an NSL letter and every bank has to report automatically every year. It is not constitutional. It is a violation of our privacy, and it is a problem. And the reason that this administration is promulgating this out of the Treasury Department is because they know that they have to raise more revenue. And so they have already estimated that this level of surveillance will raise about $550 billion of revenue. So not even $1 trillion of revenue. And we're in the middle of everything you do is tracked and monitored. And interestingly enough, a federal judge just ruled recently that what the NSA did with their mass surveillance program of Americans' phone records, that Edward Snowden, who's in Russia still to this day, political asylum in Russia, that Edward Snowden exposed, the mass dragnet that Edward Snowden exposed, was hailed by a federal judge in the last 2 weeks as right and a good thing to do, to let the people know that the government had been spying on them without their knowledge. Everyone thinks we have a Fourth Amendment, and we do, but we have had a lot of case law that has put a lot of holes in that Fourth Amendment. And after 9/11 and after the terrorist attacks, people allowed the fear of the terrorism to impugn their rights. And these are the things we got: the Patriot Act, these NSL letters, all came from terrorism. And now we have, similarly, Corona, that the health scare is making people allow them to give up some freedoms to the government. So think about that. Think about that. You know, it's always easy to give up freedom and to give over freedom to a higher power like a federal government when you think they're going to be able to protect you. But if you think that government will stop and actually back off and not surveil you when the threats die down, when the corona goes away, and when the threat of terrorism goes away, no, that's not how